are listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show, bringing you the latest news and commentary on baseball.
The 0-2 pitch, swing and a miss, struck him out! The Philadelphia Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball!
Hockey.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Flyers are going to win the Stanley Cup! The Flyers win the Stanley Cup!
College football.
The Big Ten championship lies on a measurement.
Did he get it? No! He didn't get it! Penn State home!
They brought back the fun, they brought back the excitement, and now they've brought back a Big Ten championship. The Penn State Nittany Lions are Big Ten champions.
And the NFL.
9 seconds left. Eagles by 8. Brady lines them up. He's back again. He steps up. He's hit. He stumbles. He is throwing it deep for the end zone, and it is batted around and incomplete. And the game is over. The game is over. The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you. Let the celebration begin.
Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffa.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to episode 256 of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. I am one of your hosts, Joe Mays, and sitting next to me, my co-host, Justin Raffa. Let's be prepared here.
It's good to be on the show.
He's in the zone for sure tonight. He's ready to go.
Yeah.
So
I'll get there.
You'll get there eventually. So this is, as I was telling a buddy on Twitter, this is kind of our, not our off season, but it's kind of like a cool period for us just because, let's face it, like we live and breathe American football.
Yeah.
And I say that because the guy I was talking to is from Australia.
Okay.
So
No,
I have to clarify
yeah.
what type of football I'm talking about for any of our international audience out there to make sure we're all on the same page. So obviously our busy season is, well, really on this show, tends to be June to early February. So we have a lot of fun here in this couple-month period where we can kind of talk whatever we want. And last year we did kind of a non-sports thing. We didn't get to do it this year. I thought we might, but we took a longer break. And we ran into March Madness, which we're going to talk briefly about tonight. And, this is also the time of the year where baseball is starting, which we did the preview a couple weeks back. But it's also the end of the regular season for hockey and basketball, and good things are afoot for Philadelphia sports teams. So we will be talking about that in every facet. And while the Phillies lost today, they did have quite the game yesterday. So we're going to talk about all Philadelphia teams except the Eagles, which we're not used to.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of a little bit of a stop, but we did get to hear the Super Bowl call one more time on the intro to the show, which I told you last time never gets old. I keep listening to think you might be able to hear me yell from our house here I know that would be quite the yell, but I was shocked.
Yeah, well, we have video of it. We have played the video a few times. So, it's an interesting time in Philadelphia sports with a lot happening in, with the Eagles winning the Super Bowl, the Sixers and Flyers making the playoffs, the Phillies scoring 20 runs yesterday, and Villanova winning their second collegiate basketball title in 3 years.
Yeah, so it's a pretty insane time in Philadelphia sports, and it kind of takes me back to a tweet that came out after the Eagles won the Super Bowl. So before Villanova won, before the Flyers had kind of went on a run to get back into playoff contention in in hockey and in the midst of this run that the Sixers have been making. But what had happened was, like somebody sent out a tweet, a non-Philadelphia sports personality sent out a tweet, and it just said, I hope everyone realizes what has just happened. Now that the Eagles have won, the Philadelphia sports fans are going to go from the team that like everybody loves to hate and they're no good to the team that everybody's going to hate and they're good. Right, exactly.
Welcome to Boston 2.0.
Exactly. I'm more than glad to take that and have a decade plus of dominance in sports. We'll make that work.
Yeah. So I'm all for that, especially if it would start with the Flyers and Sixers here this late spring and early summer. We got Eagles done, Villanova done, Flyers and Sixers, and then hopefully it carries over for the Phillies. Hopefully they get on the right track, because they've had a bit of a rough start.
Yeah, a bit of a rough start. And you and I talked a couple weeks ago, last week was Easter.
Yeah.
Had a couple. We had a discussion about how they needed to get off to a quick start. Well, haven't exactly done that.
No.
At the same time, well, we'll leave some for the show, but like it's not all doom and gloom like some people would think. Yeah, at the same time, there are concerns that you have as well.
So I have up here, if you're watching us on Facebook Live, the bracket challenge, the tournament challenge that we run through ESPN. Since we weren't, I guess it wasn't over last week at this time. They were almost over at this point, but we kind of knew what was going on, and I talked to the eventual bracket champion on Easter, and it was for the second time in 3 years. Coincidental, that's the same amount of time that Villanova's won.
Yeah, funny how that works.
My aunt Steph is the bracket champion with total points totaling 1180 and in the 97.5 percentile. She takes it again, so I will be talking to her to see if she really does want to come on the show. Maybe she'll send a surrogate such as my uncle, or we could get her to record something. We'll offer her the shirt. She didn't take us up on anything 2 years ago, but I don't know. Maybe she changed her mind. Maybe she's ready to come on here and brag, and we'll talk a little dog show.
Yeah, so, I don't know. We'll have to see what's going on. Yeah.
But congratulations to her. And as I mentioned 2 weeks ago, and because it was my fault, I will bite the bullet and include him in here, because my dad actually did finish second at 1160. So he was just 20 points behind my aunt, because he did have Villanova. Kelly actually also not in this pool. She did the same thing as my dad, or what I did for my dad, and didn't join the bracket challenge, but Kelly did also have Villanova, and she used that bracket at her new job, and she finished fourth.
Oh, nice.
So,
very nice.
So, very good all around. Picked Nova. I know Jamie here overall ended up finishing third, tied with my uncle. John Rogers, also strong showing. Greg, Brady Reppert, a former player of mine. I don't know who Candessa 3 is, though. Do you know who that is?
Nope.
So if you're listening and you know who that is, or that's you, let us know. Looks like John Rogers had another of his brackets finished near the top, and Adam also. I feel
like there's a worst case scenario for Adam where he picked Villanova to win, they win, but he doesn't win the pool because he's not really a Villanova fan.
Right.
Yeah. So.
And then
notice you're still scrolling, and
we're not on.
We're not on there yet.
Man, I was doing strong. I was strong at the beginning too.
Yeah, I knew I was in trouble when my team winning it all went out on the Sunday of the first weekend. So
Isaac finishing in the top 10, or I guess really it would be 11 with my dad in there. But Uncle Rich, your buddy Rob, Trevor Vaughn, my cousin Todd, Brian Oshinsky from Penn State, my buddy Zach Arnold from the Intergalactic Peace Coalition podcast, which I was a guest on a few weeks ago. Another one from Rob in there, another one from your wife in there, and then finally we get to chalk picks tied down there.
But that's kind of interesting. That's the worst showing for chalk picks in years.
Yeah,
chalk picks is almost
10.
always a top 10, almost top 5.
Well, look at this.
Yeah. 0 points at the end.
That's a championship, but, so I'm talking probably more interested in this one than I guess.
Yeah, but still, it was a bad... That second week is where chalk picks really kind of dropped off.
So I finished 22nd. Where did you finish?
Way down. There, 35th.
There, 35th.
because I had no Final Four.
It was not a
points
good
and
showing
no-
for my daughters this year.
Yeah,
They had a
I
rough
was able to
outing.
beat your daughters, so that's I'll take that.
And yeah, Natalie did have UMBC, so she gets credit for
Wow.
UMBC. But as you can see, she didn't fare too well outside
No.
the first 2 days. So, but yeah, so congratulations once again to my aunt for winning our bracket challenge. And just a little housekeeping here. We'll update everyone on our tentative schedule here for the next few weeks and months. Mostly because we want to point out that in about 6 weeks, we are starting our 2018 NFL preview.
All right, I'm on board.
That's just the way that it works out because of summer vacations.
Where is the Super Bowl next year?
That's a good
Asking
question.
for a friend.
Yeah. I'm not... Is it in... Where was it this year? It was in Minnesota?
It's in Minnesota
Is it in
this
Atlanta
year.
next year? In the new one?
Probably. And then I know in a few years it's in LA.
Well, here, let's just pull it up right here. So,
Every time you do that, you pull up the thing and I start looking. And it's,
it takes time.
I know.
Venue. Let's see. Selection process. Home team destination. Now let's go to this. It'll tell us here at the bottom.
Atlanta, Miami,
Tampa,
and then California.
I knew Miami was coming up, but I was like, I think Atlanta squeezed in there before then.
So you went to the Super Bowl in Tampa, correct?
Correct, yeah, Raymond
That's-
James,
I
yeah.
thought it was Tampa when you were there.
Yep, my dad
That's
and
getting to be an
Todd
older
and-
stadium.
Todd and
like-
Terry, we went on January 28th, 2001, where we saw Kerry Collins and the New York Giants get absolutely demolished by Ray Lewis and the Baltimore Ravens.
I was rooting for the Ravens.
I
At
was
the time.
not
I know.
at all.
I know.
Terry was.
I'm
he
aware.
said birds of a
Was
different
he?
feather.
Hey, there we go.
Well,
I didn't
he's
know
not
that.
going to root for the Giants. He's an Eagles
Well,
fan.
no, that makes
And
sense.
my
I just
dad-
never
and-
thought of it
but,
before.
I mean, he was a Wilson guy though, but
Right.
he just couldn't root for the Giants. But my
Right.
dad and
I think it would have been different if Terry knew Kerry. You know
Right,
what I mean?
right,
But
right.
if you don't know him, it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, but yeah, there it is. That's
All right.
The
Good
next
to know.
Four Super
Good to
Bowls:
know.
Atlanta, Miami, Tampa, and Inglewood, will be the new LA stadium.
Yeah,
So,
which will probably be a spectacle. I can imagine.
well, with what the Rams are doing,
Yeah, but
There's
they'll
one-
have died out by
Right.
2022.
they're one of the first divisions we'll be talking about. So
Yeah.
let's get back to that schedule. So here we are tonight, March Madness, NHL, NBA. We're not doing NBA next week. That is incorrect. Not sure what we'll be doing.
Kind of up in the
next
air.
week.
Okay.
So that one's up in the air. So if you want us to talk about something, let us know. Then 2 weeks from now, we're actually going to be doing our first Bulldog Hour of the year, just because there's a lot of stuff to cover. And, I always wanted to start before August like we've done the last 3 years, and I think now's a good time because of, schedule changes and the potential for some major realignment changes and all the kind of stuff we touched on briefly at the end of the year or has changed since the end of the football season. I think it's a good idea to do that. So I hopefully we'll have a nice video segment on Junior Joseph in the NFL draft. And there's a whole bunch to talk about. I have an outline ready to go. So Bulldog Hour will be live in 2 weeks. Then we'll have that's right before the NFL draft. So we're going to have a draft recap the weekend after the final Sunday in April. Then the first Sunday in May, nearly a year to the date, we will welcome back Mr. Dallas Wood to talk about the NBA playoffs, which at the time the Sixers should have hopefully already won their first round matchup and be looking ahead to the semis.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I'm kind of fearing the LeBron conversation with Dallas this year, because I'm not in groveling mode yet to bring LeBron to Philly, but man, whew.
Well, you know what he mentioned, and I didn't even say this to him. He brought it up. He's like, "We got a discussion about Rookie of the Year." That's what he said.
You're right, and they have a great runner-up, the Rookie of the Year.
Then we'll be off Mother's Day Sunday, but we'll be back, like I mentioned, May 20th, episode 260 of this show, and we're starting with the AFC West already. So the draft will be over and in the books. Some OTAs and mini camps will have gotten started. Obviously, we can't wait until like end of July to start this. I mean, when we used to do that, we'd do 2 per week, but like it would take us 2 hours, and like, we just can't do that.
No,
we like to focus on a division a week. Well, that's 8 weeks. Well, with vacation and stuff, that takes the entire summer.
Yeah,
and we're gonna go a lot of Bulldog Hour in August and the fall, but we'll get to that in the future. But that kind of gets you through the next 6 weeks or so of what to expect from us. So, yeah. So I mean, we kind of talked about when we mentioned the tournament challenge, but Villanova won the NCAA tournament this year, and they were easily, I think, the best team in this tournament.
Yeah, and it was hard to tell because I know we mentioned this before when we were talking about some of the things, but more top 5 teams lost to unranked teams this year or had losses than like it's a long time since like that stuff had happened. So it was hard in the regular season to kind of distinguish who was the best. Virginia had been dominant a lot of the season in the ACC. Villanova did really well, but didn't win the regular season in the Big East because they lost some games they probably shouldn't have lost in the Big East. Right. But they won the Big East tournament, so you're like, oh, well, they have a chance. They got that 2 overall seed, a number one seed, but a number 2 overall. And, people talk about, oh, well, there were some upsets and things. Yeah, but, you look at who they beat. They beat number 9 Alabama, Alabama had won down the stretch to get into the tournament. I'll give them that. But Alabama was long and athletic, has, a lottery pick player in Colin Sexton this year. So Alabama's nothing to scoff at. I saw that game. Dante DiVincenzo kind of gave a preview of things to come later in the tournament, lit it up in the first half. He was the only one hitting anything for Villanova, but lit it up in the first half. And then Villanova just started draining everything in the second half and blew them out of the water.
Yep.
Again, a storyline we kind of see a little later on. But then you also, they beat West Virginia, who a lot of people were that was a trendy upset pick, I feel like. West Virginia, affectionately called Press Virginia because they pressed and gave Villanova some struggles, but they were able to kind of extend the lead down the stretch and won by double digits again. And then they go on and I'm trying to think after that. They played Texas Tech. And Texas Tech, good defensive team. Again, had a couple losses they shouldn't have had, but was right there at the top of the Big 12. And then they beat a number 1 seed in Kansas, again, by double digits. They blew the doors off of Kansas in that Final Four game. Man. And then Michigan, it's back and forth. I knew that Villanova was going to be okay when Michigan was going all out, and they were playing like on fire to start the game. And before the first TV timeout, Mo Wagner needed a break, and he was calling to come out and they talk about it all the time in the championships, how you just get so up for the championship that like it just sucks the life out of you real quick, right?
And see what happens.
And Villanova weathered the storm and then started lighting it up and won every game by double digits.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, so
another great showing from J-Raff and his club.
Yeah, two national championships in 3 years. There are only a handful of teams that have won 3 championships since the modern era of the tournament, which I believe started in 1985 when the Villanova won and have essentially shot perfect from the field in the second half against
North
Georgetown.
Carolina, Kentucky.
I think and Villanova. It's crazy.
Has Florida won more than 2?
See, I think they won 2 and they won back to back. Yeah, so like when you talk about the 2 and 3 years, Florida gets thrown in there, even though they had won back to back, the Joakim Noah teams and stuff like that.
Al Horford.
Yeah.
So, not only did a Philadelphia-based team win a postseason tournament, but another Pennsylvania school, one that we're quite fond of, also found themselves cutting down the net, and that was Penn State, who made it to the NIT, which I think is 32 teams, right?
I believe so, yes.
And they ended up being a 4 seed, and along their way...
Actually, I don't think it is.
Or do they not seed pass?
So I think because some teams have a bye. I'm just trying to think in my head. So like Notre Dame had a bye.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know how many get buys though. So it might be like it might be like 28 teams. It's something weird. Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, Penn State ended up beating that Notre Dame team on St. Patrick's
Day at Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. And then kind of blew the doors off of the next two teams that they played to capture the NIT championship, which they also did 9 years ago with Taylor Battle. That one was a little bit closer than this one this time around.
And, the NIT has to love it because the two most highly attended NIT championship games at Madison Square Garden both involved Penn State 9 years ago, and this one because
Penn State has a huge New York City alumni
base.
base.
And they can bust the students to the game. It's you and I know if we want to go to New York, we could be there before tomorrow. We could be there. You can go anytime you want from this area, which is nice. Not that we do all the time, but but it's nice to be able to. Right, exactly. Jamie and I are on a 3-year cycle for New York, but it's one of those things where, and that's good for us, But it's easy to get there. They've got to love it. But yeah, you know what? And Pat Chambers, there was some legitimate questions about his job security earlier this year, especially considering after a home loss to Ryder over Christmas break. A Ryder team that wasn't terrible, but you lose to Ryder at home.
There was a time during probably around the same time that the Flyers got really hot, that Penn State was really hot, and they were not even really well. I mean, they're still a bubble team, but they're considered an in-bubble team.
Yeah,
and then they didn't do. It started with a loss to Purdue, which then a few weeks later they lost to Purdue again in the Big Ten tournament, and they just couldn't seal the deal. But now they parlayed that into an NIT championship, and despite losing one of their big guns, one of them is coming back. Tony Carr is leaving for the NBA.
Right.
But this Penn State team was pretty young, and they're expected to build something. They could have preseason rankings.
Yeah.
They could be, 20, 23, 24, 25, or be just on the outside looking in. And expectations will be high next year because of the championship and because of what's returning. Right.
The goal is you've got to make the tournament next year, and I'd say in the next couple of years the goal would be to win a game in the NCAA tournament.
Has that happened since 2001 when they upset North Carolina?
I don't believe so. They've made it.
Sweet 16.
They've made it, but I don't think they've
made it a few times.
They lost to Temple, didn't they, last time?
2010, 2011? Yeah, that was the last time they were there. I can't remember if it was 2010 or 2011. But I think they may have made it one or two times between then and 2001 when they upset North Carolina.
That was incredible.
I got a great story about that related to the Wilson stuff we talked about this past week, but we're not going to talk about that now. So there's Patrick Chambers. He signed our show shirt.
That's right.
Coach's Caravan.
That's right.
He actually signed it Coach Chambers.
That's awesome.
He was like, I'm going to write Coach. I'm like, you do whatever you want.
Yeah.
So congratulations to the Penn State men's basketball team on finishing the year on top. They brought that trophy home, and they got to celebrate their players.
Keep going in the right direction. Hopefully they can get some guys in to help. It stinks to see Tony Carr leave, but listen, that's what happens. That's what happens. I know. I'm not saying he's the Saquon of the basketball team, but you get guys there. It's just those are some of the things you have to deal with now. Interesting note. I saw a thing that says I think Saquon is still taking classes, even though he's not. I think he entered the draft, but he was still taking classes because when he made the decision to let Coach Franklin know, he promised Coach Franklin he'd finish his degree. So I think he might be scheduled to actually graduate or has things in place so that he can. Penn State with World Campus now, those things are pretty well possible. So
So switching gears a little bit, quickly talk about the Phillies. Now, I mentioned they lost today. Didn't get the sweep over the Marlins.
Took 2 or 3, though.
That's what do we say all the time?
2 out of 3. Gets you to 102 wins.
You go 2-1 all year, you're doing pretty good.
Right.
So they couldn't get it done today. But Vince Velasquez, while starting a bit rocky yesterday, giving up the run early, his offense behind him came to play.
Yes, they did.
And they had 2 or 3 Grand Slams.
2 Grand Slams.
First time, I think, since 2009 that they had 2 Grand Slams in the same game.
By the way, it was the first time ever that a Flyers player had a hat trick and a Phillies player had a grand slam on the same day.
That is cool.
Yeah.
That is cool. So the grand slams came from Maikel Franco and Aaron Altair.
Yep.
Were the two with the grand
Franco
slams.
had a heck of a 2 days.
Yeah, he did.
Like Thursday into and Saturday. Whew.
So, there was a little bit of consternation in the clubhouse with moves that Gabe Kapler has made over the first 10 days of the season or so.
Yep.
Some vocal players, including Nick Williams, who asked if a computer was making the lineups because of the Phillies' reliance on analytics now. It'll take time for this clubhouse to change, as it has in many other places over the last decade or so. 10, 15 years with staff in the upper level sabermetrics.
Interesting. So I heard some of the podcasts I listened to. They were talking about how it is tough when you introduce it, from when you go to almost none of it to Gabe Kapler, admittedly is pretty much all about that. Every decision is that, which is fine. They said, except they made the reference to. All right, so if you're coaching, if you're Steve Kerr and you're coaching the Warriors and Steph Curry makes 10 threes in a row and it comes time for the game-winning shot and you're like, well, no, we can't have Steph do it because statistics tell us he's going to miss the next one.
Right.
You
have to know when to hold
right,
him.
So it's one of those things where, you have to use the numbers to make educated decisions, but at the same time,
it can't be the only deciding
it can't be
factor.
right. You said you have to take the player's performance on that day into effect, and they talked about that's what the best at this do. And Gabe Kapler, and they said it takes time to do that, But yeah, so that's one of those things where people are jumping all over making the numbers based decisions. Listen, I'm not opposed to making the numbers based decisions. Because I figured that'll work out. It hasn't worked out for some of the choices early on, but there are some things that are inexcusable, calling a pitcher into the game before you ever got a chance to warm up. Unexcusable. That can't happen ever.
Never. Ever.
And you just look at some of those things, and it's tough because the season just started, but listen, the players have to know you have their back. You don't have to be a player's coach necessarily, but if they think that you're not gonna give them any room, then you might be digging yourself a battle that's gonna be a losing battle. Because you can't fire all the players. No. That's not how that works. We talk about the line, from Moneyball when. Billy Bean's talking to David Justice about how, no, the Yankees are paying us for you to not play for them.
Right.
There's some of that, but you can't get rid of all the players. It's easy to get rid of the coach. So, he got booed on opening day. I feel deservedly so for some of the decisions.
Right.
But some of them are just the breaks didn't go your way, and that happens all the time in baseball. It's a long season. Give them a chance. So. Kind of interested to see how it goes. They've got time in April. We're still only a third of the way, not even through April, a quarter of the way. So they have a chance to turn around. They still need to have a strong April. They need to be above 500 at the end of the month. That's basically what it comes down to.
So the Phillies were the nightcap yesterday, but in afternoon matinee, the Flyers were taking on one of their heated rivals, the New York Rangers, who are not in playoff position, whereas the men in orange and black were. And things went Philadelphia's way for sure, as the Flyers were able to clinch a playoff spot, taking one of the final 8 spots. One of the 8 spots available. The Flyers got one of the last ones, and because of the way things worked out, they ended up moving up from the 8th spot all the way to.
It's like the Western Conference in the NBA right now, where 3 games separate hosting a playoff series to being out of the playoffs.
If the NHL seeded them in some fashion, the Flyers would be either 5th or 6th. But the way the playoff match is set up, it doesn't really matter. They're 3rd in the Metro, which means they play the 2nd team in the Metro division, and which I did not realize this was the scenario until I woke up this morning.
Yeah, I'm not real thrilled about this.
And so the Flyers are getting ready to do battle with the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yeah. hopefully,
two-time defending Stanley Cup champions.
Yeah, and they have all 13 starters, and like everybody's like, this is a Penguins team that's raring to go, and yeah, Flyers have their work cut out for them here.
Yeah, the Flyers are 0-2-2 against the Penguins this year. They lost both games in Philadelphia in regulation in brutal fashion. They got the overtime loss both in Pittsburgh. They got 2 points in 4 chances, which is not great. Not a single win against the Penguins this year. But the Flyers have historically played them well in the playoffs.
Yes.
They haven't always come out on top, but have played them pretty well. I believe the last time they met, the Flyers upset them in 6 games. And can you believe the last time Flyers Penguins met in the playoffs was 2012?
I can't. Well, it is a little surprising, but not all that surprising because the Flyers haven't made the playoffs a ton between.
Well, they didn't make it last year. So the Flyers are back in the playoffs,
right.
which we didn't get to experience last year.
So last year the Flyers were the first team ever to have a 10-game winning streak and not make the playoffs. This year they become the first NHL team ever to have a 10-game losing streak and make the playoffs. So I'm telling you, the Eagles win the Super Bowl, upset the cosmic.
Remember, right after
ways.
that happened, the Flyers and Sixers hadn't lost for
they didn't lose for
something.
2 weeks. They went 16-0-1. Yeah,
it was crazy. And,
unbelievable.
So Claude Giroux got to a 100-point milestone and actually ended up, I think, with 101 or 102.
Yeah,
'Cause he had
102
he had a
because he got the hat trick. Somebody said Carson Wentz, Dante DiVincenzo, and
I saw that.
Claude Giroux. They said Philadelphia's Gingers are taking over the world or something like that.
Yep, they're bringing. They're doing good things for redheads around.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep it going.
So let's see if I can pull this up here. We can watch some highlights from the Flyers dismantling of the Rangers.
Yeah, so it's 1-0, and then next thing you know.
Yeah, it's an explosion.
Yeah.
So the Flyers look good. Drew with do you know his first ever regular season hat trick? How incredible!
I
Drew
saw
has
that,
been.
and I was like, "Whoa!" I couldn't believe that.
But I like how they added regular season because I'm assuming that means he had a postseason one. I just can't remember. I just don't remember it.
It would be interesting, and I get it. It's not something you want to do going into a playoff series against the Penguins, but I would love for him to be like, "Yeah, who's questioning my captaincy now?"
Right.
Just to say it,
Yeah. So here it is. This is the one that gets it for him. For the Flyers to go up 5-0, and they would win by that same score.
See, and there you go. That's why I never wear a hat to a hockey game that I'm not willing to part with.
I've been at a few hat tricks in person, both at the Flyers, I think at the Hershey Bears, probably at the Royals, and I always take it off and hold it because I'm always like, someone's gonna take it and throw it on them.
I won't wear one that I'm not willing to throw because I'm like, if Giroux gets a hat trick that's sending us into the playoffs, I'm throwing my hat. So I'm not wearing one that I don't want to get rid of.
Right.
But yeah.
Flyers Wednesday night in Pittsburgh will be the opening of the Flyers.
By the way,
2017-2018
random note,
playoff run.
That's a beautiful arena, man.
PPG Paint
Yes,
Arena?
yes.
I haven't been there.
Very nice, very nice.
So, yeah, we'll see what the Flyers are able to do, being back in the playoffs after a 1-year hiatus, and the veterans had a very good year this year for the Flyers. Giroux, Voracek, Simmons went healthy. And the young guys look good at times.
Yeah.
Inconsistent,
right, but
a lot of potential.
It's okay when the veterans are producing, though.
Right.
That's the idea. Is the young guys are going to be inconsistent. They need to grow into their roles, and the veterans need to be consistent and produce.
Like Nolan Patrick, Oscar Lindblom, Sean Gostisbehere, Konechny, like all these guys. The base is there for a very good Flyers team, and if the veterans can do this for another year or two, you're going to talk about what the Bruins and Lightning have done this year, with the potential for this Flyers team. The biggest question, as has been the case for 4 decades, is goaltending.
Yeah.
What's going to happen with the goaltending? Are we going to find guys that get hot like Leighton and Boucher 8 years ago, and they ride it to the Stanley Cup final? Or, are we going to have this circle where you don't know what's going to happen?
I'm going with that.
Yeah, because that's history says.
Not my choice, but if you're asking me to predict what I think is going to happen, I'm going with will quote unquote ride the hot hand, but it'll
Right.
basically be a starter by default kind of method. So, yeah, we'll have to see. But
So that brings us to the final portion of our show tonight, and it is the inspiration for Justin's wardrobe this evening,
absolutely.
and that is the Philadelphia 76ers, who were a laughingstock everywhere, including on this show a few years ago, although we always said to trust the process. Which
Absolutely.
became,
Because why not? Why
Well,
not? We've said for years.
we talked about the Phillies embracing analytics.
Yeah.
The Sixers have been doing it for, 6 years now?
Yeah.
7 years?
Yeah.
Maybe longer. It just...
By the way, you know where Sam Hinkie came from? He came from Houston.
Right. Look what
Who's
they're doing
winning?
now.
Who won the Western Conference this year? So, like, it works. Now, I'm not saying like that guarantees championships, but I know of people that I follow for lots of sports who are like, I actually, and I'm not talking like Cowherd. Like, that was one thing when he said they wouldn't win 40 games and now they won 50. Like, I'm talking like more like people locally that were like, this is a joke, trust the process didn't work, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, no, it did work. It worked exactly how it was supposed to work. Now we just need the Lakers to get that first overall draft pick, because then it's the Sixers. Can you imagine? Can you imagine getting the first overall pick?
Oh my gosh! So
who would you take?
Actually, what I want is, obviously I want that because that's better in the long
Right.
run. But I'd love to see the Flyers get Lonnie. Or the Flyers.
The Sixers get
Sixers
Lonnie.
get
Oh
Lonnie.
my! They could open up a fan shop right on Penn
Oh my
Street,
gosh.
man. Oh my gosh!
Could you imagine?
No, I can't. I can't imagine if they got Lonnie. Oh my gosh!
The little ditty that we ordered last night,
Yeah.
based on that screen there and based on the reviews I read, actually comes with the StubHub.
Oh, nice.
advertisement on it.
Nice.
So hopefully by the time the 76ers are playing the Cavs in the Eastern Conference Final, and we can get Joe on the phone, we'll bring Dallas back. It'll
You know
be
what?
a
I think if LeBron comes to Philly next year, you and I have to discuss. I'm not committing to it. We have to discuss buying a LeBron Sixers jersey for Dallas. Like we'll have to throw that out there.
It's $15. Like, how can we go wrong?
Oh my gosh!
But yeah, Ben Simmons has been absolutely on fire. Is having a great rookie year for the
Oh my
Sixers.
gosh.
But
This was the stat I was going to tell you. I saw this today.
he's averaged 14.7 points, 10.1 rebounds, and 10.9 assists over the 14-game winning streak. No player prior to Simmons, rookie or vet, has ever averaged a triple-double over a winning streak of 10-plus games in NBA history. And the 14 games ties a 76ers franchise record that they set in 1982-83, which ended pretty good.
Yeah.
And so they win their next game. They have a new franchise record for wins in a row.
Yeah, and they play Atlanta, who is a
Struggling.
tanking team this year.
Yeah.
Man. That's right, AI. And AI is at like every home game. By the way, since January 3rd, Sixers are 22-1 at home.
I saw that, yeah. Incredible. So, everyone thought that this could be the year that the Sixers break through, that they could do something.
I think that loss is to the Warriors, too.
Is
I'm
it
not
really?
sure, but I think it is, yeah.
That they should be a playoff team. And we had talked, I think, at one point early in the year, we could see them top 6.
Yeah.
Well, now they're top 3.
Currently, they're sitting at 3rd, and they control their destiny here because they're a game up on the Cavs. Now, they wouldn't win the tiebreaker with the Cavs, I don't believe. So they need to win their last 2 because the Cavs played the Knicks twice. So the Sixers are in Atlanta, and then they finish up in Milwaukee. Assuming they get to 52 wins, like
16 in a row.
right, going into the playoffs, that's crazy. But it's not like NFL, so you don't have to. It's not win or go home
Right.
every game in the basketball playoffs. The thing is, I want them. I don't really know who I want them to face. I don't really want to face the Heat because Dwayne Wade scares me in the playoffs, even though he's older. I don't want to face the Greek Freak though with the Bucks.
Especially with Embiid's status.
Right.
up
So
in the
with
air.
them tied up, I'd probably take my chances with the Heat instead. I don't
Both
know.
have 2 left.
Right. So I don't really know, but
They're both
Yeah.
6-4 in their last 10.
Yeah, so the playoffs look pretty much set. You know, the seeding has to be adjusted a little bit.
I wouldn't mind playing the Wizards who've lost 4 in a row.
Yeah,
But that's
yeah.
not going to happen.
Right,
Well,
exactly.
I mean, I guess it
It
could.
could.
I
It
mean, if
could.
the Heat and Bucks both lost their last 2 games and the Wizards won their
last
their
two, they'd
two.
be in. Right. So you never know. See, the Wizards scare me a little bit with John Wall and I can't think of the other guy that's there, but like they scare me a little bit. I don't know, but you know what? It's one of those things where, hey, you're going to face good teams. You got to win.
Well,
you know,
if the Sixers hold on to the 3 spot,
that would be huge.
Whoever they play, be it the Heat, Bucks, or Wizards, I just want them to play the team that they're going to beat because in the next round you're probably playing the Celtics without Kyrie.
Right, exactly. Man, can you imagine? Can you imagine this team having the chance to get to the NBA conference or the Eastern Conference Finals? Oh my gosh!
Hey,
it's
crazy.
the year. It's the year. The Eagles win the Super Bowl. Anything is possible.
Anything can happen, right?
Yeah.
So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's
Trust the
crazy.
process, baby.
So the Heat are only 18 and 23 on the road, so
Yeah.
I mean they are much better at home. So Sixers are close to 500 on the road though too, so it's not a huge.
Yeah, but they're
deal,
above
but-
500 on the road.
Right.
And 29 and 11 at home.
Like you said, 22-1 since
Yeah.
January 3rd. So
Yeah.
it's tough to beat the Sixers at home right
Right.
now.
So the key is, if they can win these last two, if they don't, they'll end up, assuming they win one of them, they'll end up playing the Pacers, but they'd still have home court advantage. But then you would have to play the Raptors in the second.
Right.
Either way, they should avoid the Cavs
Until
the conference finals.
Right.
How crazy is that we're even discussing this as a possibility?
Right.
Like, man.
The Sixers got a lot of props from J.J. Redick and his comments recently. I should say the fans, the atmosphere in Philadelphia, I guess, has been electric over the last
Oh my
close
gosh!
to 6
They
months.
said when they beat the Cavs the other night, they said the roof was coming off of the place.
Yeah.
Like, man, and this is one of those things. Don't get me wrong. Like, the Eagles, and I know we talk about this at different times, but Philadelphia as a whole. I'm not talking about just franchise support here, but as a whole, Philadelphia has such strong basketball roots. Like, I mean, whether you want to talk about, the Big Five, or whether you want to talk about like high school hoops, or whether you want to talk about just legendary guys that have come from Philly, or the Sixers, like back. Philadelphia has such strong basketball roots that, man, when they're exciting like this, there's just a buzz about it that is a lot of fun. A lot of fun. And hopefully they can keep it going. And look, we're not under the illusion that delusion that they're going to win the NBA championship or even make it to the finals. Like, that's not what we're saying. But like, if they're able to compete, and then when you start talking about, all right, well, pieces to add instead of just building from the ground up, it's a lot of fun and it's a lot of excitement. And look what it's doing. You and I talk Sixers now, not every day, but like we talk about the Sixers in our conversation of sports that happen all the time anyway.
Right, because before it
that
was just
never
the periphery.
happened. Like that didn't happen. Even when the Sixers were good and like beat the Bulls because Derrick Rose blew out his ACL,
Right.
like they were still like on the periphery. Like, this is not just a good team, but an exciting team, and
Well, there's
that's
a
one of the
future
huge
there,
things. Yeah, exactly.
Before it was just kind of flash in the pan, and the last few years. I mean, years ago when he first got there and this all started, we were just like, well, we know that it's coming because we're believers in statistics and analytics, so we knew that.
And
what
in
they were
basketball,
doing,
it works more than anything else.
right.
Like,
well, there's only 5 guys you got to worry about.
Right, and it used to be that you only needed a stud to win the championship. Now you need a group of them. Well, good. We were awful for years. Now we got a group.
Right. Embiid, Simmons, Fultz, Redick, and then a bunch of guys that I don't mean to slight, but those are the ones that everyone talks about right now.
Right.
And then when we have LeBron next year, you just...
Oh, my gosh. I'll lose my mind.
Oh, man. I don't know.
And maybe my life as I
don't
go to
think I would
go to
know.
Ohio for a wedding wearing my LeBron. Or I just take chalk and I write it onto the back of my suit.
You get up there during the vows and you throw the chalk in the air.
Oh my gosh!
Witness.
just walk out because
you get a tearaway tux. And like you throw the chalk in there, you rip up and you walk up the aisle. But you've given the like whoever's doing the music, you have given them like a $50 to play like a walkout music for you.
I don't think Jamie would appreciate it if I was like, I'm sorry, Jamie, I'm taking LeBron to the wedding as my
my +1. So, yeah.
Pretty sure that would not go over well.
What's the worst that could happen? So we hope you enjoyed our little throwback segment here where we do the Philly rundown and talk about all Philly teams except for the Eagles. But, we peppered them in there a little bit here and there.
That's right.
And they'll get plenty of coverage again in the next 6 weeks when we start our NFL preview for 2018. But, it's nice to give the Flyers, Phillies, and Sixers some love as well as Villanova, Penn State.
And it's nice
basketball.
when it's fun to do so
right,
instead of just being
Other
like,
than we're like,
oh.
facepalm, Embiid got hurt again.
Right. Let's hope they win the draft lottery.
Which is funny because Embiid did get hurt again, but it hasn't mattered yet.
Right, and it wasn't a crazy one. Yeah,
Right.
They've won like 6 in a row without him now.
But
Something like that.
Orbital fracture and concussion, it's not major. He's fine.
Well, I meant like, all things considered, it's not major. That's the crazy part. But...
So, yeah, hopefully...
But they've done this without them, giving some of the other guys a chance to step up. Hopefully he can kind of get healthy and come back in. And, yeah, that would be huge.
Sounds good to me. So we will be here next week. And again,
talking about
if there's something you want us to talk about, hit us up. This was kind of fun, kind of hitting a whole bunch of different spots. Next week, hope we could talk about all of them again. We can talk about the same
we can give
group,
updates.
Other than Villanova and Penn State men's basketball. We could talk about Phillies, Flyers, and Sixers again if you want to hear the Philly rundown. If there's something else you want us to cover, if there's some viral sports post out there that's interesting, you hit us up, send us an email. We'll answer your questions, or if you have a topic, let us know. So we'll be back for episode 257 next Sunday. To get more from us, visit jmnjrradio.com. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook. Birthday shout-outs. Happy birthday to little man Jack Hill.
Yeah.
Big 4-0.
Yeah.
We'll be back again before you have a big one to talk about. How about any friends or family you can think of? I'm trying to, before I forget. I know Isaac had one recently.
Yeah.
So happy belated to him. We covered a lot of people 2 weeks ago that we knew we would miss. So if we forgot about you, trust me, it wasn't on purpose. We don't have these written down. We're trying to do them from memory.
And if you know us, you understand
right.
where the disconnect comes from.
Exactly. So anything else from you?
No.
All right. Thanks for joining us. This wraps up the 256th episode of the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show.
We hope you tune in every Sunday for our take on sports. Until next time, I'm J-Raff.
And I'm Joe Mays. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to the Joe Mays and J-Raff Show. Tune in every Sunday for the latest sports discussions from Joe and Justin. Each episode is available live
on Facebook Live
and can be downloaded or streamed on iTunes and SoundCloud. You can interact with Joe and Justin on Facebook and Twitter, and stay up to date with the guys at joemaysandjraff.com. The Joe Mays and J-Raff Show is part of the JMNJR Radio Network. For more info, visit jmnjrradio.com.